Cyrus Talmy, leave the mission fund ledger
Those
closed.
numbers represent relationships overseas, not just columns.
The donation stayed high while verified payments collapsed.
There are two versions of Cyrus Talley: the pastor his congregation trusted with their most sacrificial giving for 15 years, and the man on the federal indictment. Both are the same person.
International moves slowly. Partners do not run on American spreadsheets.
The trial chart showed a $2.7 million gap.
You're turning sacred work.
He would not get to finish that sentence. Within 72 hours, federal agents would seize the trust records, the property deeds, the 2 luxury vehicles registered in his name, and a 5-year financial reconstruction that reduced 15 years of ministry to a single chart. A chart the jury would eventually call the confession. $2.7 million, 5 years, 2,400 people in one Alabama congregation who believed every word of every Mission Sunday sermon he ever preached. This is the story of Pastor Cyrus Ellington Talley, and this is where 15 years of ministry ends. Before we go any further, I want you to sit with this for a second. $2.7 million, restricted, designated, given by families who often gave above and beyond their weekly tithe because they believed the money was building a school in Ghana or drilling a well in Guatemala. Every single one of them trusted the man in that pulpit. Drop a comment and let me know what you would do if you found out your designated giving had been funding a real estate portfolio for 5 years. Subscribe if you are new here. Trust me on this one. The full story is worse than the number. Cyrus Ellington Talley was born on March 14, 1972, in Selma, Alabama. His father, Edwin Reese Talley, worked as a mechanic at a Chevrolet dealership on Broad Street for 31 years. His mother, Vernell Coretta Talley, worked in the cafeteria at Sophia P. Kingston Elementary School. They lived in a 2-bedroom house on Franklin Avenue, 3 blocks from Brown Chapel AME, where his grandfather had served as a deacon for over 4 decades. Church was the architecture of his childhood. Sunday morning service, Wednesday night Bible study, Saturday choir practice. His uncle, Reverend Percival Coleman Rowan, pastored a small congregation of about 80 members outside Marion. Cyrus spent his summers at his uncle's house, running the soundboard on Sundays, learning how to fold a bulletin, learning the rhythms of small church ministry from the inside. He preached his first sermon at 14 years old at a youth revival at Brown Chapel. The text was Isaiah 6. His grandmother sat in the second pew, weeping. His father, who rarely came to services, sat in the back with his cap in his hands. The congregation said afterward that the boy had a calling. He graduated valedictorian of the R.B. Hudson High School class of 1990, delivering a commencement address that quoted both James Baldwin and the Book of Micah. He was accepted at Morehouse College in Atlanta on a full academic scholarship. He majored in religious studies, minored in African American studies, and graduated with honors in 1994. From Morehouse, he enrolled at Beeson Divinity School at Samford University in Birmingham. He met Delphine Aurora Rowan, a graduate student in social work, in the Theological Library on a Tuesday afternoon in October 1995. She was studying at a table with a stack of case files. He asked to borrow her highlighter. They were married 18 months later at Brown Chapel in Selma, with his uncle Percival officiating. He earned his Master of Divinity in 1997. His thesis was on stewardship theology in the Black Protestant tradition. His faculty advisor, Dr. Waldemar Ainsley Hofstadter, wrote in his final evaluation that Talley possessed a rare combination of homiletic gift and pastoral instinct, with an unusual command of the theological weight of financial stewardship. His first pastorate was as associate pastor at Ebenezer Fellowship in Montgomery from 1997 to 2003. His son, Marcus Ellington Talley, was born in 1999. His daughter, Naomi Coretta Talley, was born in 2002. In 2003, he was called as youth pastor at Grace Point Community Church in Huntsville. Grace Point was larger, more affluent, and more visibly white than Ebenezer. His hiring was notable in the region. He built a youth program that grew from 40 students to over 300 in 6 years. He was known for driving a 1998 Toyota Camry with 180,000 miles on it, for spending his own money on kids whose families could not afford summer camp, and for showing up at hospital rooms without being asked. In 2010, Stonecrest Community Church, an 11-year-old non-denominational congregation in Stonecrest, Alabama, 35 miles east of Birmingham, called him as senior pastor. The church was struggling. Sunday attendance had dropped to under 400. The original founding pastor had left after a personality conflict with the elder board. The building's HVAC system had failed the previous winter, and the youth wing was closed. Cyrus Talley accepted the call at a starting salary of $68,000, which was $10,000 less than the position had previously paid. He declined salary increases in 2011 and 2013. Under his leadership, weekly attendance climbed from 400 to 1,200 by 2015, to 1,800 by 2018, and to approximately 2,400 by 2020. The church added a second Sunday service, then a third. A satellite campus opened in Prattville in 2017. A Selma broadcast site opened in 2019. By any external measure, Cyrus Talley was one of the most respected pastors in the state of Alabama. He was invited to preach at pastors' conferences twice. He was profiled in a 2018 Christianity Today feature titled The Quiet Builders. His congregation trusted him with a completeness that would become, in retrospect, the necessary condition for what came next. Stonecrest Global was launched in the spring of 2013, 3 years into Talley's tenure. He announced it from the pulpit on the second Sunday in Lent. The premise was simple. The congregation would establish direct partnerships with pastors and ministries in West Africa and Central America. The support would be sustained, relational, and above the church's general operating budget. The mechanism was restricted giving. Envelopes marked Stonecrest Global. Online giving portals with designated fund categories. Special Mission Sunday offerings held quarterly. Under Internal Revenue Service rules and Alabama charitable solicitation law, funds designated by donors for a specific purpose are legally restricted. They cannot be redirected to general operations. They cannot be spent on anything other than the designated purpose without donor consent. They are, in the words of nonprofit accounting standards, a form of trust. Congregational participation was strong from the start. First-year restricted mission giving totaled $214,000. By 2015, that number had grown to $480,000. By 2018, restricted mission donations were running between $700,000 and $900,000 annually. Over the 15-year arc of Talley's pastorate, the congregation would give a total of approximately $9 million in restricted mission funds. The partner ministries were real, 5 of them. Reverend Kwame Nkrumah Boki's school construction ministry outside Kumasi, Ghana. Pastor Adaize Ifeoma Nwosu's water infrastructure network in rural Liberia. A pastoral training seminary in Freetown, Sierra Leone, run by a woman named Sister Ngozi Chidinma Okonkwo. 2 ministries in Central America, one working with indigenous communities in the Guatemalan highlands, and one operating a network of small church plants in northern Honduras. The fund flow, as designed and as presented to the congregation, was straightforward. Weekly offerings collected. Restricted funds routed to a dedicated mission account at Regions Bank. Quarterly disbursements from that account to the 5 partner ministries via international wire transfer. Partner ministries provided quarterly acknowledgement letters and annual progress reports. The senior pastor and the church's business administrator, Renetta Belinda Fairchild, jointly prepared summary reports for the Finance Committee. The Lay Finance Committee met 4 times per year, 7 members, a retired banker, an insurance broker, 2 small business owners, a high school math teacher, an accountant who worked in tax preparation, and 1 rotating seat filled by a general congregation member. The committee reviewed the summary reports, asked polite questions, and voted to approve or table. Here is the vulnerability. Restricted giving depends on trust. The congregation trusts the church. The finance committee trusts the summary reports. The summary reports trust the pastor. There is no independent verification unless someone specifically asks for it and specifically knows what to ask for. Restricted mission funds are the most trust-dependent category of Christian giving. They are also the category with the least routine oversight in a church of Stonecrest's size, because international disbursements are legitimately complicated and legitimately opaque, and because questioning the pastor's stewardship of missions money is culturally taboo in a way that questioning the operating budget is not. Cyrus Talley understood this. He had studied stewardship theology. He had written a Master of Divinity thesis on it. In the spring of 2019, Talley presented an idea to the Finance Committee. International disbursements, he said, had become administratively burdensome. 5 separate wire transfers per quarter. Currency conversion losses. Partner reporting in inconsistent formats. Some partners lacked reliable banking infrastructure and required workarounds. The paperwork was consuming significant staff time. The solution he proposed was a missions consolidation vehicle, a private trust registered as a religious purpose entity, which would receive the restricted funds from the church in a single quarterly transfer and then handle all downstream disbursements to partner ministries. The trust, he explained, could be domiciled in a state with more favorable religious organization treatment, could handle currency conversion more efficiently, and could smooth out the partner's cash flow across seasonal donation cycles. The Finance Committee approved the arrangement in June of 2019. 2 members abstained. The rest voted yes. Stonecrest Global Consolidation Trust was registered the following month. Here is what the Finance Committee did not know. The trust was registered in a state with statutory provisions that exempted religious purpose entities from most nonprofit disclosure requirements. There was no requirement to file audited financial statements. There was no requirement to disclose beneficiaries. The trust's sole trustee, listed on the registration documents, was Cyrus Ellington Talley. He had, in the eyes of state law, complete unilateral authority over trust disbursements. There was no co-trustee. There was no oversight board. There was no reporting requirement to the church that had originated the funds. The first quarter after the trust was established, in the fall of 2019, the church transferred $194,000 in restricted mission funds to the trust. From the trust, Talley disbursed $130,000 to the 5 partner ministries. The remaining $64,000 went to a personal checking account he had opened at First National Southeast the previous month. The pattern established that quarter would compound for 5 years. 2019 full year. Restricted donations received, $780,000. Disbursed to partner ministries, $520,000. Diverted, $260,000. That first-year diversion paid the down payment on a beachfront condominium in Destin, Florida, and covered the fall semester tuition for Marcus at a private college in Nashville. 2020, the year the pandemic hit. Restricted donations spiked slightly as the congregation gave sacrificially to overseas missions. Received, $840,000. Disbursed, $430,000. Diverted, $410,000. That year, purchased the second property, a rental duplex in Fairhope, Alabama, and paid down credit card debt Talley had accumulated on the Destin renovation. 2021, received $810,000, disbursed $230,000, diverted $580,000. 2022, received $760,000, disbursed $150,000, diverted $610,000. 2023, received $720,000, disbursed $190,000, diverted $530,000. Total diverted over 5 years, $2,390,000 from the primary account, plus an additional $310,000 in secondary transfers through a related pass-through entity. Grand total, approximately $2.7 million. That money purchased the Destin beachfront property, valued at $780,000. The Fairhope rental duplex, valued at $440,000. A 3-bedroom lakefront cabin in Guntersville, valued at $390,000. A used Range Rover in 2020. A new Mercedes GLE in 2022. Marcus's 4-year undergraduate tuition at a private college in Nashville. Naomi's private high school tuition at an Episcopal Preparatory Academy in Birmingham. a $29,000 family cruise to the Mediterranean in the summer of 2022. Various credit card balances, home renovations, and undocumented cash withdrawals. While this was happening, Talley continued to preach Mission Sunday sermons 4 times a year. He continued to show video footage from the partner sites. He continued to host visiting partner pastors in his home when they came to the United States. Reverend Boki from Ghana was hosted for a week in 2021, staying in the guest room of a house whose second mortgage had been paid off using diverted mission funds. He traveled to visit the partner sites himself, twice a year. He paid for the flights personally, out of the diverted funds. He filmed the schools. He filmed the wells. He came home and edited the footage into 8-minute Mission Sunday videos. 2 of the partner ministries dropped out of the arrangement in 2022, citing declining support. Talley told the congregation from the pulpit that those ministries had graduated to independent sustainability under God's provision. He knew what he was doing. He knew every quarter. He knew every wire transfer. He knew the widow in the 7th row who put $23,000 into Stonecrest Global envelopes over 8 years thought she was building a school. He knew. He knew. He knew. Bernard Ellsworth Hurst was 67 years old when he was appointed to the Stonecrest Finance Committee in November of 2023. He had spent 34 years at Meriwether Danforth Partners, a regional accounting firm headquartered in Birmingham, 20 of those years specializing in nonprofit and religious organization audits. He had retired 18 months earlier and relocated to Stonecrest to be closer to his daughter and grandchildren. He had joined Stonecrest Community Church the previous spring. He was quiet, unassuming, and habitually thorough. His wife of 41 years, Marceline Eloise Hurst, described him to investigators later as a man who reads the fine print because he cannot help himself. His first committee meeting was on December 2nd, 2023. The agenda included quarterly review of Stonecrest Global disbursements. The summary report, prepared by Talley and Business Administrator Fairchild, showed total quarterly disbursements to the Consolidation Trust of $188,000. Hurst raised his hand. He asked politely if the committee could see the trust's disbursement schedule to the individual partner ministries. Talley said the trust's operational records were maintained separately and that the committee received summary information as a matter of standard practice. Hurst asked if audited financial statements were prepared for the trust. Talley said the trust operated under religious purpose exemptions and was not required to produce audited statements. Hurst asked if he could see the trust's bank statements. Talley said that was confidential. Hurst did not push at that first meeting, but he went home and pulled the church's Form 9-90. He reviewed 5 years of restricted mission fund receipts. He noted that receipts had held steady in a range of roughly $720,000 to $840,000 annually. He waited for the next meeting. March 15th, 2024. Same agenda item. He asked again for information about partner-level disbursements. Talley provided 3 acknowledgement letters from partner ministries dated within the previous 18 months. Hurst asked for direct contact information for the partner ministries. Talley said international communication was sensitive, that partner relationships required careful stewardship, and that the committee should trust the process that had been in place for years. Hurst said, in his quiet way, that trust was the point of oversight. The room grew uncomfortable. The other committee members shifted in their seats. Talley closed the meeting shortly afterward. Hurst went home and wrote a 2-page memo. He laid out the questions. He noted the Consolidation Trust's opacity. He noted the discrepancy between steady congregational giving and the committee's inability to verify downstream disbursement. He hand-delivered the memo to Reverend Marcus Delano Whitfield, the retired minister who chaired the elder board. Whitfield's initial response was defensive. He knew Talley personally. He had recommended Talley for the Stonecrest pulpit 15 years earlier. He told Hurst that questioning the pastor's integrity was a serious matter, and that the memo needed to be considered carefully. Hurst said he would like the memo entered into the elder board's minutes. The elder board met in a called session on June 11th, 2024. 9 members. The meeting lasted 4 hours. Whitfield walked the elders through Hearst's memo. Talley was invited to respond. He characterized Hearst's concerns as adversarial, as symptomatic of a broader problem with the Finance Committee, and as a distraction from the church's mission. The elder board voted 6-3 to retain an outside forensic accountant. The 3 dissenting elders included Talley's brother-in-law, an elder who was also a business partner in one of Talley's real estate ventures without having publicly disclosed the connection, and an elder who owed Talley a personal favor from a family matter 3 years earlier. The next morning, Talley told his wife that the Finance Committee was trying to build a case against him for reasons that had nothing to do with money. She asked him, according to trial testimony, whether there was something he needed to tell her. He said no. The Elder Board's legal counsel retained Cordoba and Merriweather Forensic Accounting on June 28, 2024. The lead forensic accountant was Priscilla Fairbanks Cordoba, 44, a certified fraud examiner with 15 years of investigative experience. She had testified in 7 federal trials. She had unwound 3 ministry fraud cases in the Southeast over the previous decade. She understood the specific accounting mechanics of restricted religious giving and the specific psychology of the pastors who exploited it. She began with the church's bank records, 5 years of statements. She traced every deposit into the restricted mission account and every disbursement out. The disbursements out were consistent, quarterly transfers to Stonecrest Global Consolidation Trust. She then subpoenaed the trust's bank records through the Elder Board's counsel. The trust cooperated only partially. Cordoba filed a complaint with the State Charitable Oversight Office in the state of registration. Within 30 days, the trust's full bank records were produced under compulsion. From the trust records, she traced disbursements to partner ministries. She confirmed each disbursement independently by contacting the partner ministries directly. 3 of the 5 partners responded within a week. 2 required follow-up over several weeks. Ultimately, all 5 ministries confirmed their receipts, and their answers were consistent, and their answers were catastrophic. Reverend Kwame Nkrumah Boki's ministry in Ghana had received $18,000 from the trust in the previous 12 months. It had received $140,000 annually as recently as 2018. Pastor Adayeze Ifeoma Nwosu's ministry in Liberia had received nothing for 18 months. Sister Ngozi Chidinma Okonkwo in Sierra Leone had received $22,000 in the previous year. The 2 Central American partners had received similarly diminished amounts, and 1 had formally withdrawn from the partnership after 8 consecutive quarters of insufficient support. Cordoba then traced the remainder, every dollar that had entered the trust and had not exited to a partner ministry. She followed it into a personal checking account Talley had opened at First National Southeast in July of 2019, 1 month before the trust's creation. From that account, she traced disbursements to real estate closings, to a Mercedes-Benz dealership in Birmingham, to a Range Rover dealership in Nashville, to a private university bursar for Marcus Talley's tuition, to an Episcopal Preparatory Academy for Naomi Talley's tuition, to a Mediterranean cruise line, and to various credit card companies. She built the chart on a Tuesday afternoon in late September 2024. A single side-by-side line graph. 5 years across the x-axis. Dollars on the y-axis. 1 line for restricted mission donations received. 1 line for verified partner ministry disbursements. The lines began roughly parallel in 2019. They diverged sharply. By 2023, the gap was over $600,000 in a single year. The cumulative gap over 5 years was approximately $2.7 million. The chart, as she would later say on the witness stand, was the case. Digital evidence came next. Cordoba obtained Talley's text messages under warrant. There were hundreds of relevant exchanges over 5 years. 3 of them became particularly damning at trial. Talley to his real estate attorney, Denton Rivers Poitras, March 11, 2020. Quote, Fairhope closing set for Tuesday. Funds wiring from the Global Consolidation Trust. Please confirm receipt. End quote. Poitras to Talley, March 11, 2020. Quote, confirmed. Just want to double check. This is a personal purchase, not a church acquisition, correct? The buyer name on the deed is you, personally. End quote. Tally to Poitras, March 11th, 2020. Quote, correct. Personal purchase. The trust is my private vehicle. End quote. The trust is my private vehicle. Those 7 words would be shown to the jury on a screen the size of a garage door. Tally to his wife Delphine, August 4th, 2022. Quote, the Guntersville place goes to closing next Friday. Trust funds this one. Everything is fine. End quote. Delphine to Tally, August 4th, 2022. Quote, Cyrus, are you sure we can afford this? I'm nervous. End quote. Tally to Delphine, August 4th, 2022. Quote, it's all designated for ministry housing purposes. I've explained this. Please stop asking. End quote. Cordoba delivered her full report to the Elder Board on October 14th, 2024. The board voted unanimously to place Tally on administrative leave, to terminate his employment, and to refer the matter to federal authorities. The FBI opened a formal investigation that same day. IRS criminal investigation joined within 72 hours. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Alabama assigned the case to Assistant U.S. Attorney Wendell Bartholomew Chastain, a career prosecutor known for religious fraud and public corruption cases. Tally was informed of his termination by phone on October 15th. He was told not to return to church property. He did not preach that Sunday. The interim pulpit was filled by an elder. The congregation was told only that Pastor Tally was stepping back from active ministry pending review of concerns raised by the Elder Board. 2 weeks later, the concerns had names attached and warrants. We are about to head into the arrest and the trial. If you have made it this far, you already know this channel is different. We cover cases the mainstream religious press will not touch because they threaten the institutions that fund them. Subscribe if you believe accountability applies to the pulpit the same way it applies to the boardroom, and leave a comment for Bernard Hurst, the retired CPA who kept asking questions when it would have been easier to nod along. That is what integrity actually looks like. Tuesday morning, October 29th, 2024, 6:47 a.m. Cyrus Tally was in his home study on Meadow Ridge Lane, in a 5-bedroom colonial he had purchased in 2017. He was drinking coffee from a mug his daughter had made him in a high school ceramics class. He was reviewing his sermon notes for the following Sunday, a sermon he would never preach, a sermon on the parable of the unjust steward. He was highlighting a passage in Luke 16 when the doorbell rang. Delphine, still in her bathrobe, walked down the stairs and answered the door. Federal agents, 2 men, 1 woman, vests, badges, a folded warrant, Special Agent Jerome Beaumont Kittredge of the FBI, Special Agent Camille Odessa Rutherford of IRS Criminal Investigation. A 3rd agent, a task force officer from the Alabama State Bureau